There's a particular mix of feelings that a lot of us are experiencing right now, and it can be hard to name. It's not exactly burnout, but it can feel like a backdrop of worry, grief, maybe helplessness that shows up when we read the news or look at a smoky sky or think about the future. Climate triggered distress, climate anxiety, grief. If you can relate, this book is for you. Transforming Climate Anxiety, a workbook for courage, clarity, and collective action, is about the human experience of climate change. How can we be with what we know and are experiencing? How can we leverage skillfully our full humanity toward being part of system-wide transformation? My name is Leslie Davenport. I'm a therapist and climate psychology consultant, and I've spent nearly 30 years helping people do something that might sound impossible. Being with the full knowledge of what's happening to our planet and not be flattened by it. In fact, become part of creating a safer, healthier, more just world. And over the next few minutes, I'd like to walk you through how this book supports that, and more importantly, why it matters. So let's start with something that might actually be a relief to hear. Climate anxiety and related feelings of distress are not a disorder. They are a completely rational response to a harmful, threatening, systemic situation. When our nervous system registers real threat to our home, our community, the very web of life we are part of, it responds, and that is visceral intelligence. The problem isn't that we feel these things. The problem is that most of us have never had the tools to work with what we feel. So our emotions build up, or we try and ignore them or cut them off. And in the early chapters of the workbook, we start right there with what are climate emotions actually, and what are they trying to tell you? They're messengers, they're even allies, because I found both in my clinical work and in my own journey that your emotions about the climate crisis are gateways. Grief is a signal that you love deeply. Anxiety is your nervous system working, scanning for what matters. And anger is rooted in injustice, when boundaries are being harmfully crossed. This workbook helps you learn to read those signals and respond to them in skillful ways that can actually energize you and free you up. We also spend time on something that doesn't get talked about much: the cognitive distortions that climate distress can activate. Not because the threats aren't real, we know they are, but because our minds can amplify fear into spiraling catastrophic thinking or shut us down in ways that actually reduce our capacity to act. So learning to recognize those patterns is one of the most practical things we can do. The middle section of the workbook is what I think of as the inner work. It's where we slow things down and pay attention to what's actually happening inside you. Not just intellectually, but in your body, in your relationships, in your sense of who you are and what your life means and how you communicate about it. And we explore grief, real ecological grief, because the losses are real: species, seasons, places, the world our grandchildren will inherit. These losses deserve to be mourned, not just managed away. But we also look at what sustains you: deep kinship with the natural world, meaning, connection, and community, standing in agency with others. There are reflective exercises throughout: writing prompts, body-based practices, nature experiences, because transformation isn't cognitive. It happens in our body, It happens in community. It happens when we let something land rather than keeping it at arm's length. This is a workbook. You can write in it, you can go at your own pace, in your own way, in whatever combination of solitude and community feels right for you. This book is meant to get raggedy and dog-eared. One of the things I hear most often from people who are struggling with climate-triggered distress is this: I want to do something, but I don't know how to start. Or I started and then I burned out. Or I feel like no matter what I do, it's not going to be enough. And this is where the third part of the book comes in. We talk about the relationship between our inner work and our outer action because they're actually inseparable. How you relate to your own emotions and experiences affect how you show up in collective spaces. These are patterns to understand because they shape what you can offer, but also tell you what you need. And we look at your sphere of influence, those genuine places where your particular life skills and relationships and passion give you leverage. Not because individual action alone is enough for a crisis of this scale, we know it isn't. But when you find your authentic place of engagement, where you can contribute your particular gifts to a larger effort, it makes sustained action possible and sometimes even joyful. And there's also a chapter on navigating difficult conversations. You know, those ones at the dinner table or with colleagues, or the ones with people you love who've given up or turned away. Climate silence is one of the most unrecognized forces in this moment. The workbook offers frameworks for entering those conversations, staying in them, and with needed, how to repair them when things go sideways, because sometimes they do. And justice and collective action run throughout all of it. This is something I care deeply about personally, because we do not process this well alone. We cannot do this alone. We need each other, yes, for practical reasons, but our nervous systems are relational. So we need it for meaning making together, changing the inside and outside in ways that can only happen in community. And a word about who this is for. It's for the person who's been quietly carrying climate grief and choosing not to talk about it. It's for the activist who started to feel like they're running on empty, who knows that the work matters but isn't sure they can keep going. It's for the therapist, the teachers, the parents, caregivers, healthcare workers who are trying to hold space for other people's climate distress, but also managing their own. It's for the person who's never thought of themselves as a climate person, but who finds themselves unable to stop thinking about what the future holds. You can use this book on your own or with a therapist or in a classroom. Take practices to a book club, do it in community. This is grounded in 30 years of clinical practice in the research literature on eco-psychology and trauma and resilience, and honestly, in my own ongoing navigation of what it means to be a person who loves this world and is watching and feeling as it changes. So I want to leave you with this. The fact that you feel so much about the climate, about our world, is evidence of your humanity and that you are paying attention and care. And this is the beginning of everything that actually helps. So I hope it meets you where you are. I hope it helps you stretch and connect to others. I'd love to hear how it lands for you, where you take it, and where it takes you. Thank you.